You were told to keep going, to dream bigger, climb higher, achieve more. They called it growth. They called it ambition. They called it life. But no one asked if you were tired, if the noise ever stopped, if the ladder ever ended, if more ever felt like enough. Maybe you've done everything they told you, and still, you're here, exhausted, restless, half alive in a life that looks full but feels hollow. This isn't a video about success. It's about silence, stillness, sufficiency. It's about remembering what you were before the world told you to become more. It's about enough, not as a compromise, but as a return. This is the beauty of enough. Welcome back to yourself. Chapter 1. Why more is never enough. You were taught to want more, not by one person, but by 1,000 subtle whispers. Ads, report cards, promotions, compliments, comparisons. More money, more friends, more followers, more success, more square footage, more productivity, more motivation, more. They told you this was growth, that ambition was noble, that comfort was dangerous, that hunger made you exceptional. So you kept climbing. At first, it felt right. Every new achievement sparked joy. The raise, the recognition, the purchase, the praise. It worked, until it didn't, until you needed more to feel the same, until the thrill wore off faster, until joy became a chase with no finish line. There's a name for this: hedonic adaptation, the human tendency to return to a baseline of happiness, no matter what changes. You get what you wanted. You smile. Then, you want something else. The dream job becomes just a job. The dream house becomes the place you're still stressed. The dream life becomes your new normal. And your normal never feels like enough. Here's the haunting part. You don't even know what enough feels like anymore, because no one ever taught you how to recognize it. No one clapped when you paused. No one praised you for choosing peace over progress. No one gave you a trophy for saying, "I'm content." So you kept chasing, not out of greed, but out of fear. Fear of stopping. Fear that if you stood still, the world would forget you. Fear that if you weren't getting better, you were falling behind. But what if the chase itself is the problem? What if more doesn't make you full? It just makes you frantic? What if the secret to joy isn't having more, but needing less? Let that sink in. Needing less. Not settling, not giving up, but waking up from the trance of never enough to finally see what's been here all along. A body that still breathes, a roof that doesn't leak, a moment of stillness that demands nothing but gives everything. They sold you the lie that happiness was out there, that if you tried harder, bought smarter, looked better, earned higher, you'd get there. But maybe happiness isn't a destination. Maybe it's a decision to say, this is enough. I am enough, right here, right now. And when you finally whisper that truth, daily, not just once, a strange thing happens. The craving fades, the noise softens, and for the first time in a long time, you feel full. Not because you got everything, but because you stopped needing to. But sometimes, the feeling of not enough doesn't come from within. It comes from the way we look at others. It's not lack that starves us, but comparison. We forget how rich we already are. The moment we believe someone else is richer, we stop living to feel. We start living not to fall behind. And so, quietly, unknowingly, we step into an invisible prison. Chapter 2. The prison of comparison. Comparison is instinct, but when left unchecked, it becomes a cage. From childhood, you were taught to compete, to be better than your classmate, better than your coworker, better than your past self. And so you began to measure happiness through others. You don't ask, do I feel enough? You ask, do I have as much as them? You don't ask, am I fulfilled? You ask, why is their life better liked than mine? Comparison blinds you. You look into someone else's garden and forget how much you loved your own. You envy filtered lives and abandon your unfiltered truth. Worse still, it slowly erodes gratitude, because you can't compare and feel thankful at the same time. A heart full of comparison has no room for enoughness. Ever been there? You see someone's highlight reel online and shrink inside. You hear about a friend's promotion and feel small instead of happy. You scroll through smiles, vacations, flawless moments, and suddenly your life feels off. Not because it's bad, just because it's not theirs. So you build an invisible prison. The walls? Everyone else's photos. The bars? Why am I not there yet? The lock? Your silence. Your fear of admitting you feel less. But here's the strange part. We compare ourselves to things we never see fully. You're comparing your full, messy, vulnerable life to someone else's carefully chosen, curated moment. You don't see their sleepless nights, their hidden fights, their unpaid bills, their quiet doubts. You see their best day and let it ruin your ordinary one. Comparison doesn't lift you. It exhausts you. It doesn't make you whole. It makes you hollow. It doesn't help you become you. It makes you want to be someone else. So where's the way out? Courage. The courage to stop looking outward and look inward instead. The courage to ask, if no one saw it, would I still enjoy it? If no one applauded, would I still want to do it? When you stop living to be more than, you begin living to be real, not pushed by standards, but pulled by truth, not to impress, but to return home. Comparison fractures the soul. It takes away joy and presence, because when your eyes are always turned outward, you miss the quiet miracles inside your own life. But the small things only reveal themselves when your life slows down enough to notice them. To see again, you must first learn to live simply. Chapter 3. Reclaiming peace from simplicity. When life feels too heavy, you don't need to add. You need to subtract. Subtract the noise, the expectations, the pressure, the constant proving. We live in a world where complexity is a badge of honor. A busy calendar means importance. Multitasking means value. Overcommitting means success. But no one tells you, the more you manage, the less you feel. Simplicity is not stepping back. It's stepping into something deeper. Like an uncluttered room that lets the sunlight in. Like a song that knows when to be silent. There's a quiet beauty in the simple. A homemade meal. A walk with no destination. A conversation with no interruptions. A morning without an alarm, woken by light, not obligation. But simplicity takes courage. The courage to say no, to stop keeping up, to choose fewer things, because you value them more. Simplicity isn't laziness, it's clarity. It's remembering that the richest life isn't always the fullest one. To live simply is to say, I don't need more to feel alive. It's asking, not how much more can I carry, but how much can I let go? Let go of urgency. Let go of comparison. Let go of doing, just for the sake of doing. When you live simply, you don't retreat from life. You return to it. You don't stop striving. You stop striving for what doesn't matter. You don't shrink your world. You shape it into something worth being awake for. And in that quiet space, something else begins to rise. The real questions. The ones you couldn't hear before through the noise. What am I really living for? What truly matters now? Questions we only ask when we've lived enough to know what doesn't. Chapter 4. What really matters. At 40, 40 is not the end. It's the middle. You're no longer young, yet not truly old. You're no longer beginning, but not quite finished. 40 is a turn in the road, a moment to pause, to look back and forward at the same time. You start to see what used to keep you up at night no longer matters. What used to be urgent now feels small. What used to excite you now feels empty. You begin to question success without peace, productivity without meaning, pace without direction. At 40, you crave truth, not the world's truth, your truth. You don't want more, you want right. The right people, the right values, the right life. You realize it's not about how much money you make, but what it buys you. Freedom? Or a prettier cage? It's not about how many people know you, but who truly sees you. Not what you've done, but what still matters when all of it fades. 40 is not a crisis, it's a clarifier. It's the moment you finally stop performing and start becoming. You value time more than status, presence over popularity, peace over approval. You stop saying yes just to please. You say no to protect what's sacred. 40 is not the beginning of decline, it's the beginning of depth. A depth that doesn't shout, a strength that doesn't sparkle, a life that no longer needs to be loud to feel real. When you finally recognize what truly matters, a quiet truth begins to take shape. You cannot hold on to everything. You cannot carry all your past selves, all your old dreams, all your broken plans, and still have space for peace. To protect what matters, you must let go of what no longer does. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. Chapter 5. The power of letting go. Letting go is one of the hardest things we'll ever do, not because we lack strength, but because we've tied our identity to the things we're afraid to lose. The title, the image, the plan, the relationship, the version of yourself you thought you had to be. But life keeps whispering, you don't need to carry this anymore. And often, we don't hear it until it's too heavy to ignore. We are taught to chase, to accumulate, to hold tight, to never give up. But the truth is, not everything you carry is meant to be kept. Some things served you once, but now they only slow you down. There is a kind of grief in letting go. Grief for what could have been. Grief for the version of you that tried so hard. Grief for the dreams that no longer fit your soul. But there is also a quiet liberation, like unclenching a fist that's been tight for too long, like exhaling after years of holding your breath. Letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about honoring something enough to release it. It's saying, thank you. You brought me here, but I can't carry you any further. You might need to let go of the career that no longer aligns with your values, the friendship that drains rather than nourishes, the perfectionism that masks your exhaustion, the resentment that poisons every step forward, the idea that your worth is in your productivity. And perhaps hardest of all, you must let go of the person you thought you had to be, so you can become the person you already are, underneath it all. Letting go is a form of trust. Trust that there's more life beyond this chapter. Trust that peace will rise in the space pain used to live. Trust that emptiness isn't the enemy, it's the beginning. You've spent enough of your life gripping things that were never meant to stay. Now is the time to loosen your hands, to quiet the noise, to surrender, not in defeat, but in grace. Because freedom doesn't come from holding on. It comes from finally, courageously, letting go. Once you let go of what no longer serves you, you begin to notice what has always been there. Not more things, but more space, Not more noise, but more silence. Not more achievements, but more presence. Because the greatest wealth isn't stored in a bank account. It's stored in your ability to be fully here. Chapter 6. Becoming rich in presence. We spend most of our lives elsewhere, not physically, but mentally, living in what's next, obsessed with what's missing, haunted by what should have been. We are alive, but we are rarely present. And that absence comes with a cost. You may not see it on your calendar, but you'll feel it in your relationships, in your energy, in your spirit. Presence is what gives moments their meaning. It's what turns an ordinary conversation into intimacy, a walk into reflection, a meal into gratitude, a silence into peace. But presence isn't easy. Not today. Not in a world that trains us to be everywhere but here. Notifications, multitasking, mental tabs always open. We've made distraction a way of life. We've lost the art of being with something, fully. To be present, you must slow down, but not just in action, in attention. To sip instead of gulp, to listen instead of reply, to notice the subtle, the small, the sacred. Presence is not passive, it's powerful. Because when you're truly here, you stop judging, you stop rehearsing, you stop proving, and you start experiencing. Not the filtered version, not the content version, but the real, raw, fleeting now. Here's the truth. You can have everything, but if you're not present, you'll miss all of it. You'll eat, but never taste. Hear, but never listen. Work, but never create. Be loved, but never feel it. To be rich in presence is to live a life that doesn't just look good. It feels real. You don't need more time. You need more awareness within the time you already have. So how do you return? You breathe. You put the phone down. You look someone in the eyes. You chew slower. You walk without a podcast. You watch the sky change colors at dusk. You remind yourself, this moment is not a stepping stone. It's the destination. The present is not something you earn. It's something you surrender to. And when you do, you realize the richest people are not the ones with the most stuff, but the ones most alive in what they already have. Presence gives us back the moment, but to stay present, we must protect that moment. And in a world that never stops talking, that means choosing quiet on purpose, not just turning down the volume outside, but learning how to quiet the voices within. Because until you live without noise, you'll never know what your soul actually sounds like. Chapter 7. A life without noise. We've normalized noise, not just sound, but the constant stimulation, the inner dialogue, the endless hum of alerts, opinions, obligations. We call it being connected, but most of the time we're just being consumed. Even when it's quiet, our minds are still loud. What's next? What did I forget? What will they think? What haven't I done? Silence feels unfamiliar. Stillness feels threatening. So we scroll, swipe, click, multitask just to drown it out. But here's the truth. Noise is not neutral. It numbs, it distracts, it delays the conversation you most need to have with yourself. And eventually, you wake up to a life where you're surrounded by sound, yet starved of clarity. You're constantly reacting, never reflecting. You're doing more, but feeling less. Noise keeps you from hearing your own wisdom. It keeps you externally focused, eternally busy, chronically unrooted. A noisy life is not just exhausting, it's disorienting. So what does it mean to live without noise? It doesn't mean retreating to a cabin in the woods. It means being intentional with your attention. It means creating margins in your day, pausing between tasks, choosing music over media, choosing a book over a feed, choosing conversation over commentary, Sometimes silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. Answers that don't shout. They whisper. And if you keep filling the air, you'll never hear them. To live without noise is to reclaim your inner compass. It's to make space for your own thoughts, to differentiate between your voice and the voices you've absorbed from the world. And here's the paradox. The quieter your life becomes, the louder truth starts to speak. You realize you don't need everyone's opinion. You don't have to chase every trend. You don't owe the world your constant reaction. Noise tells you to hustle. Silence invites you to listen. Noise pushes you outward. Silence pulls you inward. Noise keeps you busy. Silence brings you back home. When you begin to hear yourself again, beneath the noise, beneath the pace, you start to see life differently. Not just for you, but for the people who are watching you most closely. Your children don't need a perfect world. They need a real one. They need you, anchored, awake, and enough. And perhaps the greatest gift you can give them is the one no school teaches and no screen shows: the courage to live a life of enough. Chapter 8. Teaching your children enough. Your children won't always listen to your words, but they will absorb your energy. They will see how you speak to yourself, how you chase or rest, how you celebrate or criticize, how you define success. And slowly, silently, they'll begin to form their own definition of enough. If all they see is a parent constantly overwhelmed, chasing more, never present, always proving, they will learn that rest is guilt, that love is performance, that self-worth must be earned, not given. But if they see you pause, if they see you breathe, if they see you say, "This is enough," not because you've given up, but because you've woken up, they'll learn something different. They'll learn that life isn't measured by status, but by presence. Joy isn't in stuff, but in connection. Value isn't something you chase, it's something you carry. We say we want our children to be happy, but what are we modeling? Are we teaching them to live, or just to keep up? Are we offering them stillness, or more stimulation? Are we raising them to be themselves, or to please a world that doesn't even know them? Here's the truth no one says loud enough. Children don't need more toys. They need more truth. They need to see that it's okay to rest, to not know, to feel deeply, to say no, to grow slowly. They don't need a perfect home. They need a peaceful one. They don't need endless praise. They need presence. They don't need every opportunity. They need to believe they are already enough, with or without achievement. And the only way they'll believe that is if you start believing it too. You don't have to be the perfect parent, just the present one, the grounded one, the one who dares to live differently, so they know they can too. This world will try to teach your children that they are only as good as their grades, their looks, their likes. But you can teach them something else. You can teach them that they were already enough the day they arrived, that they are not here to impress, but to live, that their value is not a number, but a truth that never changes. And maybe, in raising them with enough, you finally learn to give it to yourself too. When you teach your children that they are already enough, something shifts in you too. You stop living just for the next goal and start wondering about the footprints you'll leave behind. Not just in their hearts, but in the hearts of everyone your life has quietly touched. Because legacy isn't built by the things you leave in a will, but by the truth you leave in others. Chapter 9. Legacy without excess. One day your name will be said for the last time. Your voice will stop echoing in hallways. Your favorite cup, your old chair, your journal will all become artifacts of a life once lived. And the question is not if that day will come. The question is, what will remain when you are gone? Most people think legacy is built in big things, achievements, empires, bank accounts, awards. But ask someone what they remember about someone they lost, and they'll rarely mention their resume. They'll tell you about the way they made them feel seen, the moment they listened without fixing, the quiet presence in a storm, the laugh that made a room feel lighter, the love that asked for nothing in return. You don't have to live a loud life to leave a lasting one. In fact, the most powerful legacies are often invisible, not in buildings, but in beliefs, not in stuff, but in stories. We spend so much of our life trying to accumulate, and so little time asking, what am I actually passing on? Are we giving the next generation more noise, more pressure, more things to chase, or are we giving them courage, clarity, a deeper definition of what matters? Legacy without excess means living by example. Not saying you should, but living. This is how I love. This is how I show up. This is what enough looks like. You don't need to leave behind wealth if you've already left behind wisdom. You don't need to leave behind buildings if you've already built people. You don't need to leave a name that millions know if your presence changed one person's life completely. The minimalist doesn't just live with less, they leave behind less noise and more meaning. Think about it. What if your greatest legacy is not what you do, but how deeply you were here while doing it? How kindly you treated strangers, how well you listened, how fully you forgave, how softly you loved. You won't be remembered for how many things you owned, but for how many hearts you opened. And maybe that's the most beautiful kind of legacy. The one that doesn't outshine it, outlasts. When you no longer live to be remembered, but to be real, you begin to taste a different kind of joy. Not the joy of achievement, not the thrill of validation, but something softer, something quieter, something that doesn't need applause to feel complete. It's not the joy of more, it's the quiet joy of enough. Chapter 10. The quiet joy of enough. There is a joy that doesn't shout, that doesn't sparkle, that doesn't post itself online. It doesn't need to, because it's already full. This joy isn't found in finally having it all. It's found in realizing you don't need it all to feel whole. It lives in moments so ordinary, they almost go unnoticed. Waking up without urgency. Laughing mid-conversation and forgetting why. Lighting a candle for no reason. Washing the dishes while the sun sets. Sitting in silence and realizing you're not lonely, you're at peace. This is the joy of being present without performance, of not needing to be anywhere else, of not needing to be anyone else. The joy of looking around your life and saying, this is good, this is simple, this is enough. Enough isn't a compromise, it's a completion. A deep soul-level sigh that says, I have chased long enough, I have proved enough, I have performed enough. Now, I will simply be. And here's the sacred truth. You were always enough, before the striving, before the applause, before the comparison and confusion and conditioning. You were already whole, already worthy, already loved. To live in enough is to live in freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from restlessness. The restlessness to earn your place, to fix yourself, to outperform, outshine, outdo. Enough doesn't ask you to shrink. It asks you to settle in, to root deeply into the life you already have. You begin to notice, your body carries you. That's enough. Your home holds you. That's enough. Your breath returns. That's enough. This moment greets you. That's enough. And in the end, after all the striving, chasing, consuming, you'll find that the life you wanted was not out there. It was here, in every quiet joy you once rushed past, waiting for you to stop, to notice, to return. You've been taught to want more, to run faster, to reach higher, to never stop. But maybe you don't need to become more. Maybe you just need to remember who you were before the world convinced you that you weren't enough. So pause, breathe, look around. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are here, and here is enough. Because the point of this life was never to have it all, but to feel it fully. To live awake, to love gently, to leave behind more truth than noise. So if this journey gave you anything, let it give you permission to slow down, to let go, to live deep, not wide, and to finally whisper the words no one else ever taught you to say, "This is enough. I am enough. And maybe I always have been." If this message found you in a moment of noise, let it be a reminder that silence still lives within you. And if it stirred something quiet in your heart, don't let it end here. Subscribe, not to follow, but to remember. Remember that you are not your pace, not your past, not the pressure to become more. You are already enough. And here, we remember that together. This is Stoicism Flux, and this is the Quiet Revolution.